From formation to taxation, covering inflation, temptation, high expectations, and that dreaded stagnation, we bring to you Hip Nation.
Hey Hip Nation, and welcome to another episode of Hip Nation Podcast. My name is Shamie.
And I'm Sarah.
And we are here to talk to you today about hip advertising. So this podcast, we're going to talk about traditional advertising. We're going to talk about new age advertising, the forms between the two and how they have changed. And we're also going to cover a little bit of marketing for you and branding as well. So we'll start it off with Sarah there.
So I wanted to start this episode with a really awesome quote that I saw on Instagram once that really helped me define kind of the difference between sales, branding, marketing, advertising, all the things. And this was seen on the Chris Do account, who Chris Do has the Futur, F-U-T-U-R. If you've never heard of him, he is kind of a marketing genius. But he reposted this quote from a fellow whose name is Alan Dibb. He is the author of the One-Page Marketing Plan. So the quote goes like this: "If the circus is coming to town and you paint a sign, that's advertising. If you put the sign on the back of an elephant and walk it into town, that's promotion. If the elephant walks through the mayor's flower bed and the local newspaper writes a story about it, that's publicity. And if you get the mayor to laugh about it, that's public relations. If you show them the many entertainment booths, explain how much fun they'll have, answer questions, that's sales. And if you plan the whole thing, that's marketing. Marketing is what you say it is, and branding is what they say it is. When enough people arrive at the same gut feeling, a company can be said to have a brand." So kind of a really cool quote that really illustrates in a nutshell the differences between all those different things. And it kind of really put it into perspective for me, even as someone who is somewhat of an expert in some of these fields. I saw that quote maybe a year ago, and it actually changed the entire way that I thought about marketing for sure.
Yeah, no, for all of us visual people, I mean, the picture I built in my mind was a bunch of elephants, but like you can see exactly like each facet of it. I feel like I've been schooled a little bit.
Yeah.
But no, that's so true. There are, it's multifaceted. It's not just one thing. And they, how they say, oh, well, I need to do some marketing, or I need to do some, advertising, or I need a brand. But people have the assumption that is, just putting their logo out there, or, creating a website, or, they don't understand that there's a lot of intricacy to all these different labels, is I guess what I'd call them.
For sure. Yeah. And each one of those things that I just mentioned could have their own 3-hour-long episode.
Yeah. I mean, we pay thousands of dollars for degrees in each. So,
that's right.
Let's be real.
They're very complex.
Yeah.
So this episode is called Hip Advertising. So we're going to try and focus more on the more modern ways to advertise. And these ways I feel are probably more, is tested the right word? Like they've been proven to show better results, I guess, in this modern age anyways. So just as a point of reference, we have a few ways to advertise, I guess, that are traditionally, are just traditional. And those would be like your newspaper, radio, reader board signs, word of mouth is even a very traditional, although still very popular way of advertising. And even like airplane banners. That was like a super traditional way to advertise and very expensive.
Yes.
That was a very localized way to advertise. And then when we get into the more new age types of advertising, the few that I've wanted to talk about today are influencers, digital advertising. So that's where you're advertising either by posting on socials or by sponsored ads on socials. And then I think you have a bunch more that you wanted to talk about as well.
Yeah, so there's a couple different forms. I just wanted to touch first on like that difference between traditional and new age as well.
Sure.
Traditional, like when we were kids, I can tell you, like I can tell you so many jingles. Jingles were like the jam, and like I can sit here and who's with me? Who remembers Budget? It was like budget, frickin' muffler. Like I remember all of them, like Snap, Crackle Pop, Kellogg's, Rice Krispies. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Like there were so many, and it was just those like feel good jingles that really stayed with you. I feel like the way that it's changed nowadays is it's almost addictive, and it's like social pressure. What I mean by this is you see, for example, on social media where people are like, oh, well, I've sponsored with this person and I'm going to talk about this show or movie that's coming out. You feel pressure like you're going to miss out on something. You need to be like on the edge. You need to know the most recent music, the most recent movie. It's a little bit more leaning towards that than it is like jingles, I would say. Yeah. But, you know, that's the difference. But the new age, it's very strategic. It is well studied. They definitely have looked at different, or they've segmented the market. They're looking at different demographics. They've studied people.
So important.
So important. So like the thing is that there's a lot more background work to it. So you have things like SEO and SEM. Like those, if you need to remember any acronyms, those are them. Yep. And it's literally like, so your SEOs or your search engine optimization. And that is like the organic behind it. You're not paying for this. You're literally just, and most of us, like we're not experts on this, but it's behind the scenes. You're actually hiring somebody to come in and just help websites to be able to, you're optimizing things so that search engines can actually pick up your website. Yeah, it's a lot easier to hire somebody. That there are actually like people out there that this is their job. They're an SEO or an SEM, like that's in their job title.
Yeah.
Your SEM is your search engine marketing. These are paid advertisements, and they're using Facebook, Google, and they're optimizing those for pickup. So that's like the slight difference between the two. Those are super popular nowadays. Like, you know, it's I hear them left, right, and center all the time.
Well, and to begin with, to have either one of them, you have to have a website. And I've heard it said that if you don't have a website as a business, you're not a business.
Yeah.
And what is meant by that is that if people are looking you up online and all you have is something that links to a Facebook page or even a personal Facebook page or a third-party website that isn't your own, then people see you as less legit. A Facebook page or an Instagram page is better than nothing, absolutely, and perfect for people who are on a smaller budget, like startups. But as soon as possible and when possible, a business should have a website, and it should be professionally done. And that doesn't mean that you have to spend tens of thousands of dollars. There are many web designers who don't charge that much, but there are also a lot of very good platforms that make it very easy for you to do your own website.
Those do-it-yourselves, or sometimes
they're I could probably name 20 right off the top of my head that are you need some work, but yeah. But if you're going to do your own, you have to use templates. You just have to. Don't try and do it from scratch. go on something like Wix or WordPress and just start with a template and use the template, because the templates have been designed with a purpose, and they just make everything look so much more professional. Unfortunately, a lot of people just don't have the eye for it. So,
well, I think one of my first websites I ever built from the ground up, it took me like 6 months to get going. And then there's so many things that you need to know about it. Like, I had to set up a VIN number, which is so that, people couldn't track my specific location based on my website. And I had to set up all the security, and then you're having to set up, there's so much to it. So many, like, you have to watch out for like updates. Updates was huge. I'm like, I don't have time for this.
Yeah.
It's so easy to set it up by a template. But even nowadays, I've set up a few through these like prefab website companies. They're super cost efficient. But definitely listen to the suggestions. I get emails that are like, your website sucks.
Yep.
And I'm like, well, harsh, bro. But but then they're so accurate. Like, I look at it, I'm like, oh, I see what you're seeing. Like, yeah, definitely come in and fix it up, please. Like, make me look better than I actually am. So it's golden. But it's you now have these resources that can make your website just look fabulous.
And beyond making it look good, because that is important to your viewers, is to use the SEO marketing tools that they have built into these. Like, I know Wix has their own. I don't really use any of the other ones, but I'm sure they have it too. And to take the suggestions that they're giving you about SEO, so you're tagging your photo. Every photo that goes on your website should be tagged with a keyword or 10. And Wix is really awesome because they'll actually figure out what's in your photo for you and give you suggestions.
Yeah.
And what that does is it allows Google to crawl through your website and find these keywords, so that when people type in these keywords in the search bar, you show up as a result. But showing up as a top result is not going to happen overnight. It is a long and drawn out process that can take months, depending on your market and your competition and a whole bunch of other things, which is why for that portion of it, you need to hire somebody. You just need to, if you don't know how to do it yourself.
Like, your whole crawling through Google thing there, I was like, suddenly envision the Matrix. I was just like, I don't feel so comfortable. I feel violated right now.
The blue pen.
Choose wisely. No, there's a lot of tools out there to help you, and it's no longer a complicated process. Or, the reason why larger companies that focus on marketing services or branding and logo design, and the main reason why they help you with the websites is because it's a whole package.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that later, but it's definitely not a focus like it used to be. You used to have like website developers that they're still utilized, but they're more of a connection to a larger picture in these companies now, rather than solos. And if they are solos, it's because, they are advertising that as a main service, but they do a lot behind the scenes. So usually they're like slight programmers, and they're coding on your website and stuff. Like, it's crazy. Like, I'm not even telling you, I was reading books like How to Code for Dummies, and I was like, yeah, I got this. This isn't 6 months later. Right. I'm like, well, I aged and it still looks like crap. But so definitely, I think we were talking about last episode about, doing that inner analysis of your company and deciding where you should allocate funds, and looking at your website and sourcing that out, because that takes a lot of time.
Mm-hmm. And it's actually not, a lot of web designers nowadays still code by hand, or I shouldn't say by hand, but like manually. Yeah. And I remember when I took graphic design school, we had to take coding using Dreamweaver and C++, I think, and HTML. And I literally, at the end of that term, I aced it because that's just who I am, but I fucking hated it, and I swore I would never build another website as long as I lived, because it was just so brutal. But that was also 2000, that was 10 years ago, And things have come a long way. So there isn't necessarily a need for coding as much as there used to be. There definitely is a place for coding for some more complicated website things, but for the most part, your basic websites just don't. There is coding going on, don't get me wrong, but it's in the background and you don't have to do it yourself.
Yeah, I would say definitely in the websites and stuff like that, it's not as much. It's more migrated to like software development and apps. It's like huge in that industry right now. I took a course through Venture Canada and ICTC, and they're huge right now on connecting with local students and grads. And giving them the opportunity to connect with larger companies where you would utilize coding. So I did take a Python course there, and I was just like, holy guacamole, like this is so intense. I'm sitting there and like, you can feel the stress headache coming on because you're like, too much, max capacity has been reached. Like that's how I felt on the regular.
Yeah.
But sorry, got off on a tangent, but that happens a lot. But yeah, where were we? Oh yeah, new age advertising and their forms. Yeah, so nowadays it's more focused on connecting with, I would say, like the Gen Zs, the newer demographic and what they're into. And trying to stay hip and current with advertising is also staying connected with that younger crowd. And, we'll get into that later in marketing about your people who you're trying to focus on. But one of the big things is you'll see sponsors to certain influencers or social media. And that seems to be the common advertising. So I was telling Sarah about a TikToker. Her name is Call It Chris. Go check her out. She's flippin' hilarious if you need a good laugh. And she did one recently, and I thought it was hilarious. She literally did this like 4-character theatrical TikTok segment, but it's literally her playing 4 separate characters.
Yeah.
Freaking hilarious. And I'm like, wow, this is so much work and so much talent. But then at the end, it's a promotion for I Know What You Did Last Summer on Netflix. Oh. And I was like, oh, that's so genius. Like, it was like, I loved it because it was so entertaining. It made me laugh. She does this like emo character. And I was just like, oh my God, it's one of my teenagers. Like right there. Like it was just,
yeah.
I mean, that's, sorry if you're listening. Let the truth lay right here. Okay. So, but yeah, it's an interesting form because they're connecting to that younger crowd, which is super key because you remember, like Netflix is already huge. They've seen a need, they filled that need, and they blew up. But I mean, I think I was saying to someone the other day, I was like, I think it's so funny that I stopped paying like $120 a month in like cable bills, but I'll pay like 50 or 60 in subscriptions. Like, at least it's half, right?
Yeah,
like,
but yeah.
I don't know.
I feel like even though you're paying like half the price or whatever, you're getting way more.
Yeah. Because
Netflix's algorithms that are built in are so intelligent.
Yeah.
And they almost, I've heard it said that Netflix knows you better than your spouse does because they know what you watch. So then they understand what you're interested in and then they suggest other things. And yeah, they're just very, very good at their AI is very technically advanced.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting statement. Yeah. I don't know. I'm pretty sure my spouse knows me just the same as Netflix because I watch movies like skip. I skip ahead like a lot. Like I can't watch movies. It is so hard for me to watch a movie. I just like, maybe it's ADHD or something, but I'll sit there and I'll be like, oh, boring skip. Oh, boring skip. Like I just like, everyone's like, oh, how did you watch like 3 movies in like, 20 minutes? I'm like, it's called efficiency. It's the skip button. I get so bored. It's so hard to sit there and watch TV. It's just, but...
Get the fuck out of here. Just get the fuck out of here.
But YouTube forces me to sit there. I'm like, oh my God, where's the skip button? But it forces me to watch that advertising because you have to sit there for the first like couple seconds. So it's long enough that you can sometimes get wrapped into that advertisement.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I was like, okay. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you see Netflix start migrating that way in the future. I think they might be able to get away with it in series.
Yeah.
More so than obviously movies. Because can you imagine like getting into the thriller scene of a movie and suddenly it's like, and welcome to L'Oreal Body Wash. I'd be like, what the? Are you? No. Hard no. Like, just so aggressive.
I feel like I need to clarify that this is not a paid sponsorship for L'Oreal.
Oh yeah,
Body
I've like
Wash.
blasted a couple of names out there. Maybe we should put down in the citations. We should have citations in the blog, like not sponsored by L'Oreal, but here's the information she got it from. Like, we don't want to get sued. Anyways, not on my task list this weekend. I'm not looking to get sued. Yeah, so those seem to be like the common new age advertising.
Also, influencers.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
They're
this
huge.
form of advertising. I actually never really thought about it as advertising until I started my second business, subscription box, and thought I should send this box to a celebrity to thank them for everything that they do, but also maybe they post it on their socials. And then I'm like, oh my God, these people are human advertisers.
Yeah.
That's basically what they are. I mean, among many other things, but as an influencer, being your profession, you are a walking, talking, breathing advertisement.
Yeah. So, like an example of that I was researching was, and I've followed them for years, but like the Kardashian family, man, amazing advertising. Okay. So they used to promote products and they'd get paid for them, right? You get paid sponsors. But they took the idea and they were like, well, why would I help a company profit by millions of dollars when I could be the person making millions of dollars? So I think now Kourtney Kardashian has a line called Poosh. Poosh. It's Poosh. You can look it up. But hers are high-end quality products. But she does a lot of social media, but she does this genius advertising. She sends elaborate subscription boxes to high-end clientele. You can order it online, but it's like $500 for a subscription box. Oh. And they're like high-quality, crazy stuff in there. And you can order this, you can but then she literally takes snippets, videos of the products that's in there and she puts it on her Instagram and her social medias. And then you as a consumer on like the lower income level, right. Compared to her, you can actually look these products up. You can buy them separately. You can, but a lot of them are her products or things that she's got very good contracts with that she makes a lot of revenue from. But I was just looking at even Kim Kardashian. She used to sponsor a lot of like Tarte and stuff like that, a lot of brands. And then she went out on her own and she's got her own product line plus her Skims line, her shapewear. OMG, Becky. Like it is literally, she is making so much money just by making her own product and then promoting her own product because she is a celebrity. Like it's, I don't know.
Is she the one who's in law school?
Yes.
I would get mixed up between who's who.
I know. Sometimes I'm like, Chloe, no. Kim, no. But then, okay, this is going to be really bad. But I've decided that I've just started stereotyping them in my head. I don't know if I should talk about this, but it's actually quite appropriate. So like Kourtney's like the bitchy one, but she's like so accurate and on point.
Yeah.
I love it. And Chloe's the sweet one who's like really like down to earth and like genuine. Yeah. And Kim's like fucking business. She's like on the top of the world. And then you've got the Jenner girls. And
who are the Jenner girls?
There's 5 of them, 5 Kardashians, I guess. And Kylie Jenner, holy crap, that girl has marketed like nobody's business. She is like, she still is on top. That girl has made so much flipping money for especially her age bracket. Like, frick, she's done well in business. And her mom's a manager, right? So I feel like it's different when you have like a parent that's your manager, but their advertising has been amazing because they've stuck with a certain branding. They haven't tried to change themselves. Chloe's the only person that has let's say, adjusted. She's like changed her image over time, and she's just gotten better and better and better on honing in what people think of her and how they view her. So that's crucial. And I know we'll talk about the branding later, but
How old is she?
I don't know. They all look like they're like 20 or like late 20s. I don't know. They all have lots of kids.
Yeah.
I know that really doesn't matter, but
No, it doesn't.
yeah. I know. I was just talking about that earlier today. Like the age is so deceiving with some people. I'm like, oh yeah, she's like 20. And they're like, she's like in her late 30s. And I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea. But yeah. Anyways.
So, important to know who your audience is, but also who you want your audience to be. And that's something that you should be identifying before you even start a business. In our next episode, we are going to be talking about startups in Hip Nation. And this will be featuring our special guest, Nicole Clark. She's a local superstar.
Yes.
And I don't know anyone who doesn't love Nicole Clark.
Yeah.
So she's going to come talk to us a bit about business plans and the different startups that she's helped develop and that sort of thing. But also something that she talks a lot about is really knowing your audience and developing it before you start anything. Because if you don't know who your audience is, if you don't know, now you know. Oh, I'll just stop right there.
Oh man, I was totally getting into it.
No, don't do that. If you don't know who your audience is, then it's almost impossible to figure out which one of these types of advertising is going to be useful to you. Because there are certain industries that, for example, I don't know, a funeral home.
That was so subtle. I don't know. Let's suggest something.
So a funeral home might not see much value in using an influencer as marketing unless they're hip and forward-thinking and young. I don't know if those are the right words, but they may see more value in advertising in the newspaper because their demographic and their audience are the types of people who read a newspaper. And that also depends on what city are you in. Are you in a small town where everybody's mostly geriatric, or are you in a huge city like New York and people read the New York Times in the stock markets? And it's a totally different audience and who reads the newspaper depending on where you live.
I do.
So, and that's,
It's called the exception, not the rule.
yeah, for your age group, for sure.
I just like the cartoon section. It takes me back.
And I've worked for a newspaper before, so I get to see the types of people that read the newspaper, at least in our town. But yeah, it really, my point is to understand thoroughly who you want your audience to be, and that will dictate where and how you should be advertising.
So with that's when it comes into play about marketing. And if this is done right, literally you'll be like shouting like Drake, started from the bottom, now I'm here. Started from the bottom, now my whole crew is here. Yeah, you wouldn't let me jam up before. So
That's a different song.
That's true. That's a good one. It used to be my like morning alarm, and I was like, yes, I feel ambitious.
Love it.
Yeah, it was good stuff. So yeah, if you do your marketing right, and sometimes like really depends on where your business is at, if you have those funds available, hiring a marketing agency or a marketing firm that is in collaboration, with different forms of advertising is so smart. Like it is just, if you don't have the time to do it yourself, and it usually comes with growth of your company, it is so smart to just spend that money because you will make that money. So I'm not going to go too deep into this, but because I do know we have like a later episode coming up that will go more into depth about marketing. But there's a few basic concepts to marketing. They are marketing value. And what this really involves is, at the core, your marketing is about making those decisions that are going to facilitate that process of buying and selling. So you want to know what your objectives are. You want to, like Sarah was saying, know what your target market needs and wants are. What do your people want? Yeah. What forms of advertising are gonna reach them? Those type of things. The other thing is, you need to know who that target market is. You have to really focus and hone down on who that is. Mm-hmm. Who are your people? And a lot of that comes with, you'll hear terms like, segmentation. Also with that comes, you want to create value. And then you want to position yourself or your product appropriately. Those are all things that you need to think about. And a lot of it can come from even getting some coaching, some assistance to help you with this is really important. With marketing also, you need to know what the problem is that you're trying to solve. So let's say you're a company that is concerned about environmental sustainability, and you're like, I want to create to-go boxes for restaurants that will naturally break down in landfills. Okay, well, who is your target market? It's definitely going to be those companies that use takeout boxes.
Yep.
But so that's what you're kind of doing, is you're breaking it down. Then you want to create value. What makes this special? And there's it's not just you're not just studying the product itself, you're studying the people as well. And then how to communicate that. And this is where you'll hear this over and over and over again once you get into this world, but it's literally the 4 Ps: your product, your price, your place, and your promotion. Those marketers use those on a regular basis because they're literally the core of, what you're going to do with your product or your service and how you're going to get it to the people. And then marketers use something called the marketing mix to deliver the value, and they help you make decisions. This marketing mix helps them decide on distribution channels and logistics of it all. So that's like, that's the basics in a not so Reader's Digest version, but it is. It's not just, I'm going to slap something onto the internet. There's a ton of research that goes in behind the scenes to figure out how to make you or your product or your business or all of it actually reach your market, your Definitely. People.
Yep.
Yeah.
And on the topic of slapping something on the internet, branding plays a huge role in that too. And this is, I could talk for 20, 25 3-hour-long episodes about branding.
Well, I just want to state that marketing and branding are not the same.
They work together, but they aren't the same.
They are both so crucial.
Yeah. And we do have a later episode coming up that is all about branding. But just to kind of summarize how it relates to advertising, especially digital advertising as well as print advertising. And when I say print advertising, I don't just mean like newspaper. I mean, this is like your business cards, your flyers, your brochures, the decals on your vehicle or the vehicle wrap, the signs in front of your building or on your building. All of these things should be cohesive and consistent. And so I know when I develop a brand for somebody, I always give them brand images. And usually they include some sort of a selection of backgrounds to use in their marketing that are suitable to their target audience, but as well as the product or service that they offer. And then I suggest to them that they use those backgrounds and that kind of imagery throughout their branding until they're sick of it, and then keep using it. And that's my kind of metric for when sometimes I'll have people ask me, how long does it take to develop a brand? And the answer is there's no like cut and dry timeline for this. It totally depends on how often are you posting, where are you being seen, when are you being seen, what time of day, do you have vehicle magnets or decals, are you being seen out in the streets? All of these things matter, but what's most important is that you are cohesive and consistent. You have to keep using those same images, maybe not only one or two, but as long as you're using the same flavor of image, and I give you suggestions of what kinds of images you should look for when you're hiring a photographer, what kind of filters you should be using, etc. And then using them cohesively and consistently. And this is what I always say. When you are sick of seeing your brand look the same on everything, that's when it starts to work. And that usually takes, in my experience, about a year. And I can tell you from personal experience that I am sick to death of looking at my brand. And I painted the entire inside of my store charcoal gray because that matches the type of imagery that I chose to show myself as online and in print. It's like a gray kind of rock background that I use on pretty much everything. And I'm so sick of looking at it. But you can bet your ass that when somebody is scrolling through their Instagram or their Facebook feed and they see that charcoal looking rock thing, before they even see who posted it, they know that it's me. Yeah. And that's kind of the more imagery side of branding, but that's when you know it starts to work. And then the other side of branding is how you are portrayed by others. So like that quote said, marketing is what you say it is, branding is what they say it is. So it's all about creating that feeling. And at least for my brand, this kind of charcoal rock is to try and create trust and to let people know that I'm here and not going anywhere, and loyalty and confidence. Whereas some other brands may want to portray things that are more soft and friendly, and like there's a lot of different ways to portray a lot of different emotions. And if you're inconsistent with that, then that can in turn make people question things and not trust you and be disloyal and not keep coming back.
Yes.
So all of those things kind of play into and not only visual things, but also like, how are you answering your phone? Are you getting out and being involved in your community, which is my personal favorite way to advertise? And because it's twofold, right? You're doing something good, but you're also being recognized for doing something good. And it's not as important to me to be recognized, but it is important to me to give back to my community, because I was once in a place where I needed those resources. So as a business, being out in the community and helping and donating money, time, services, products, all these things. And when I'm out there wearing my company merchandise, just letting people know what's important to me. Yeah. So that to me is a very hip way to advertise.
Yeah, I found it a good practice too, is when you're thinking about your branding, and is to actually make it a practice to think about how you think your company is, and then put yourself in somebody else's shoes, or start listening to people and the feedback. The feedback is huge. But I've done that also in my personal life, is like thinking how my personal image is, how people are perceiving me. Last podcast, I told you there was a story. So the story goes like this. Okay. This is a prime example of branding. So excited. She's like sitting there like, oh, really? So the story goes like this. We're sitting in the vehicle, driving. I'm driving. My hubby's sitting beside me. And I'm sitting there talking about myself. No, it wasn't one of those moments. It was just like, an inner analysis, like this pivotal moment. We've spent some time trekking through the bush, trying to find elegant elk and not seeing anything other than some ravens and a lot of like little rodents, mice and stuff. It was weird. Anyways, yeah, you should see me. I was like, ew, 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 ew.
Valley girl.
No, it was, are you kidding me? I was like trekking through mud, and plus I'd worn way too many layers, so I was like, I'm fine. As there's like sweat dripping down my face, I'm like, I'm not gonna get hypothermia. I'm good.
Meanwhile, in her head, she's like, ew, ew, ew,
Yeah.
ew.
I was like, it's so sweaty. But yeah, so we're like in the vehicle talking about everything. Anyways, and then I was like, I'm just not an aggressive person. And he's like, no, you're not. But he's like, you're always like, oh, I'm just a peace-loving hippie. Like, I'm just like, I love everybody and I want like a Westie and I just want to live in a van down by the river. And he's saying this like a Valley girl too. Like he's saying like, that's how I talk, whatever. I don't think that my personal branding is like that, but whatever. So anyway.
Rogan would be rolling in his grave right now. He hates when people are like, I love what you've done with your brand. He's like, ugh, gross.
But so
Joe Rogan and I see a little differently on that topic.
yes. So the story goes, he goes, yeah, you think yourself like a hippie. And he's like, but have you ever seen yourself like something that you're passionate with or, driving, for example? He's like, you'll be like, oh my God, like peace and love. Like I love like vans and I want to like live on a farm and all that. Move, bitch, get off the road, get off the road. And he's like, you're so aggressive. He's like, somebody will be trying to pass you on the highway and you'll be like, just because I drive a fucking minivan doesn't mean you're going to pass me and you'll speed up like a dick. And I'm like, oh, you don't understand. Like, if you're not first, you're last. Do you get it?
Ricky
Like, I'm just driving around town. Oh, I was cut off the other day. And I was like, no, I'm going to be the better person. I'm going to be the better person. But they kept turning at every turn I was turning on. And they weren't driving fast enough after they passed me and cut me off. I was like, oh my God, what's your license plate number? And I'm just, no, don't be a psycho. Don't be a psycho. Like, you're going to be zen about this whole situation. And I was like, oh, in my mind, I am hoping for demise on you and your ancestors and your ancestors' ancestors. But then I like had to quell it. I had to calm down a little bit. But that is the definition, like in my mind, of like when you get into this field and you start thinking about your branding, I'm like, I have no idea what my outside branding is until you have those conversations with your spouse and you're like, holy aggressive. But on the inside, I'm super zen. It's all good. But yeah, so just thinking about that when it comes to your business as well. What you perceive your business to be that's not your branding. It's what everybody else is thinking of your business. Listen to people when you post on social medias, when you do your new age advertising, read the comments. I know we talked last time about not reading comments on postings because of trolls and negative comments. Know that not everybody's going to be your friend. Not everybody's going to love your brand.
That's right.
Just like Sarah said, be consistent. Yep. Be on it. Continue with it. Push through. Even through all the negative stuff, that consistent behavior will bring you on top.
For sure. Yeah. And something that maybe I should... Yeah, I'll just say it. Something that Nicole Clark says in her workshops, that's our guest next week, is that her kind of way of seeing branding is, say you're out driving and you're on your way to like a job interview and somebody cuts you off in traffic and you proceed to then lay on the horn.
It's a little bit too personal. I don't know.
Stick your hand out the window with one finger up and call them names and scream and yell like a maniac.
Like me, stick your index finger. I'm number one.
No, not that finger.
Oh, okay, my bad. I got kids in the car.
Yeah.
Although they do know colorful language now. Moving on. I've tried.
Okay, so anyway, you're mad is what I'm getting at. And you turn into a bit of a psycho because someone cut you off in traffic. Wow. And then you get to your interview and you walk in and guess who's sitting across the desk?
Awkward.
The person who cut you off.
And you're like, hey, BFF, what's up?
Yeah, you're probably not getting that job.
I'd still try to fist bump them, I'm not gonna lie. I'd be like, your driving was on point, I'm sorry.
It was totally my fault.
Yeah, my bad.
So just keeping in mind these things when you're out in public, especially representing your business, but not only when you're representing your business. If you're going to a restaurant, you're being a dick to a waiter, eventually you are going to be known as a business person in your region or your area, and treating people poorly and flipping people off and being a psycho in public is not going to give your business a good name. That being said, there are businesses out there who build their business on that reputation.
Oh, yeah.
And who have, like, there's a restaurant, I think it's in, I want to say it's in Vegas, but it might be in LA or something. And their whole shtick is that you're paying for bad service. Like, you literally go there and the waitresses and waiters call you names and degrade you and belittle you. And it's, like, funny. Like, it's not for the weak.
I was gonna say there should be a psychiatrist on hand for that. As you enter, we take down your name. When you leave, we pay you a visit.
It's like, what do you want for dessert? I'll take a half-hour therapy session. Cool. But yeah,
I want to have cream cheese cake, something like that for my dessert. Fuck off. Yeah, that makes me feel good inside, warm and fuzzy.
Right?
No.
But yeah, they build this brand that they're like these incredibly rude and offensive serving staff, and they do very well for themselves.
Yeah.
Because they've built that brand.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you're dumb enough to go in there and sit down, you must know what you're getting into.
Every time you get a tattoo. Am I right? There's some really nice, like, clean studios that are really good and very professional.
Yes.
It's definitely a brand and an image for those people that do. But I've walked in before for consultations and they're like swearing in the background and doing all their stuff. And, like, don't get me wrong, I'm not like hoity-toity, but, like, I'll go in there and I'm like, ooh, that's awkward. And, like, they're very aggressive. This is totally, like, badass. I feel like I'm doing something bad. Like, I should tell my mom later.
Tell your mom.
So I walked into a tattoo studio, but, like, then there's, like, other ones, like, where I've gotten mine done. Their image is very artistic.
Yeah.
And very flowy, and it's very, like...
Yeah, they usually have, like, a fish tank with a big koi in it or something.
Oh my God, were you there? Like, she's got koi fish everywhere, and I was like, oh, it's so sad.
Well, koi fish are a pretty commonly tattooed thing, so that's pretty common, I think, for a tattoo studio to have a koi fish in it. But also...
That's fair.
Personally, as a tattoo artist, I was just talking to a local tattoo artist who did my arm not too long ago, and she was saying that so many tattoo artists are well known for, like, sleeping in and then canceling appointments and, like,
Really?
like, just, she says it is the industry. That's what they do. There's no getting around it. There's, like, the way she kind of said it was like, there isn't one of us who doesn't do it. But I don't think that it's that serious. I know plenty of tattoo artists who are good with time and show up when they say they're going to show up. But I think as a general, I hate to generalize, but
It's a stereotype.
it is a stereotype, and but it is true for a lot of the time. Like, it is kind of that type of person who's, I think it's going away, the stereotype, but in the past it's been there a lot with, a lot of people coming out of prison who are going to be tattoo artists. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's their brand, is looking flaky and not being around when they say they're going to be around. And how long do you think that business lasts? Probably not very long, because they've built this brand around being inconsistent.
If you want to watch a really beautiful video on a really amazing tattoo artist, she's from up north. Her name is Teresa from Handsome Cowboy, and she brings you along with her about her story. And this is the thing too, is when you're advertising, you're going to have to deal with stereotypes for a certain field or industry you're in. So that's another portion of the marketing segment podcast that's going to come up. But in her industry, just like you said, like there is this view that people have of a tattoo artist in general. Her video shows you about how she's got a master's degree in art. She had her own exhibition.
Wow.
But she's an amazing artist. And she just, she felt like there was this industry pressure to always come up with something new. And she just wanted to make art. And she's really good at what she does. And so she went into the tattoo industry. And the main goal was, like, she was invited to come into the industry. And so she moved back home. She was in the eastern part of Canada. She moved to the west, back home, and started up her own shop, started doing work. But you have to watch a segment because it is really eye-opening. You have this expectation of what a tattoo artist is until you watch that, and then you're like, they're artists. They're passionate. They're, they put literally their heart is on their sleeve.
Some of them.
Yes. So it's a lot of the tattoo artists I've met are just amazing artists. Like some of it, it's natural. Some of it, it's trained. But a lot of them had that desire to sit there with a pencil and a paper and just take their feelings, their emotions, their thoughts, their ideas, and transfer it onto a physical sheet. So it is their canvas, right? Yeah. So even within any industry you're in, it doesn't matter where it is, using that concept of, how are people going to stereotype me in here to benefit your advertising is going to be huge too. Because I know, like, I own a fitness business on the side, and people always expect me, okay, you own a fitness business, you must be ripped, you must have all the best habits. I'm like, no, bitch, I'm a human. I eat the Mars bars. Like, I just don't expect miracles from me. But I also know the facts, and I know the science behind it, and I know it's good for me, and I know it's good for you. And I know who the trained professionals and doctors, physiotherapists, I know who they are because I know what my limitations are. So, in my industry, I study that a lot. What advertising can I use to promote my strengths and create a better brand that way? So it's not just one, it's multifaceted. So keep that in mind. And that using that traditional advertising of word of mouth is super crucial. Make sure that your branding is connected with that. That's basically how your branding is going to get created, by word of mouth.
Yeah, word of mouth is a really fantastic way to get a lead.
Huge, especially in your smaller places.
Yeah.
Your smaller locations, towns, stuff like that. That is a lot of your business.
For sure.
A lot of it.
And good word of mouth is even better.
Oh yeah, that's yeah. Unless that's your image. I mean, even in larger cities. I mean, I was thinking about social media advertising, and then the first person that popped into my head was Donald Trump. I was like, damn, his branding is awful. But it works. He's so controversial that he's actually popular.
That is his brand, though.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. He's so, yep. But it's, it's what gets people's attention.
I would even go so far as to say that his branding is the opposite of awful. He's built a solid, consistent, and cohesive reputation. And those are all things that are necessary and crucial for a good brand.
Mic drop.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is our spiel. It just kind of touches a little bit on everything to do with that advertising, but yeah, really looking forward to our segment on branding
and marketing and marketing.
Schmarketing. That's what I sound like.
No,
oh, Shana, you sound so schmarketing. Schmiegel. Sorry. Yes, so those will be some really exciting podcasts. Holy, keep it together. Yeah, it's just those will be some good podcasts to listen to. They have a few little tidbits here and there, and as we say in every episode, we fact check ourselves. Please fact check us, and don't forget to leave us comments, episodes that you'd like to see. Information that you'd like to cover. If you've got questions that you'd like further detail about stuff, don't hesitate. Especially when it comes to things like marketing, branding, we've got answers to your questions. Obviously, that's the biz. It is the biz. That's what brings the money in. So yeah, don't hesitate to reach out with to us. Holy words. And yeah.
That's it, and stay hip.